Good evening. My name is Rita Wright, and I'd like to welcome you to the 2023 Indianapolis Fire Department Recognition Ceremony. All right. This is the 163rd anniversary of IFD's service to the city of Indianapolis, and in 2022, IFD firefighters responded over 165,000 times in service to our community. Each and every day, our firefighters work together to mitigate runs that reflect the power of teamwork, the importance of training, and the ability to maintain composure under extreme stress. We hope that you will enjoy celebrating the accomplishments of the firefighters celebrated here tonight. This is but a small sampling of the everyday work done by your Indianapolis firefighters. On behalf of the IFD Recognition Committee, thank you for spending the evening with us. We appreciate your support of our mission. Our speakers and first presentation of the evening will happen during dinner. Please make sure you stay seated, as you won't want to miss hearing from Mayor Hogsett, Chief Malone, and Chief David Rhodes. But first, we need to cover some housekeeping items. Recipients, please find your name in the program and take note of the incident number attached to your name. For some of you, that may include one or more incidents. Please quietly make your way to the staging area in the hallway to my left. The incident prior to yours is, as the incident before yours is making their way to the stage. It is there you will be given your plaque and corresponding pin. Also, recipients, this is important. There is one way to enter the stage and one way to exit the stage. Please do not exit behind Scott Sander. All right, everybody down the center stairs. Lastly, if someone from your station is not here but they have a plaque, please do me a favor. Take it with you so I don't have to chase them down. Thank you. For the larger groups, and there are several of you, when you come up on stage, work your way into 3 lines. Our photographer, Rob, is here to help you get that done and to make sure that your face is visible in every picture. This year we don't have tables on the stage, so you can use this upper level to arrange yourself in 3 rows, but it's important that your face is visible in the picture. Thank you very much. Clear as mud. All right, so let's begin with the presentation of colors by the Indianapolis Fire Department Chiefs Honor Guard. Following that, we are privileged to have Battalion Chief Aaron Thomas and Battalion Chief Aletha Henderson from the Voices of IFD to sing the national anthem. Please stand for the presentation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. We will now have the invocation by Chaplain Mike Gatliff.
I invite you to join me for prayer. Our Heavenly Father, we are happy to be here this evening, and it's a joy to be gathered together. We're going to enjoy a meal together, but we're also going to take some moments and recognize some of the finest people in the world, the Indianapolis firefighters. Lord, we give you thanks for the way that you provided to our city and to our department. And Lord, we ask that as we recognize each individual and each crew here tonight, we know that 1/3 of our wonderful fire department is in service right now. Some are on scenes, many are at their stations, but each one ready to respond in a moment's notice into circumstances that are uncertain, to do their best to ensure the best outcome possible. And we are so grateful that we live in a city with such a wonderful fire department. I pray that you'll bless those. I pray that you'll bless all of us here tonight for your glory. For those who have prepared this evening, I give thanks to you and to them for this. I ask that you receive glory and honor through all that takes place here this evening. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain Gatliff. So as we are beginning the meal, make sure that you take a look at the screens for the tribute to the 55 firefighters that retired in 2022 on a well-deserved retirement.
Oh man, give me endless time, never let these ties sever. Just breaking bottles in the yard, never steal my mind again. Like old ties and companions, just sitting on the fence. The tunes we've carried through the years will change, and man, that's just enough to keep these ghosts around those haunted few. But old ties and companions, you and I, we're just passing through. It's 100,000 miles of lonely track, holding back tomorrow. Someday I'll hop along and ride it home. But old ties and companions we never leave alone. So old man, give me endless time, never let these ties sever. 'Cause heaven knows in all this fooling round, these times won't last forever after all.
And welcome to the Fire Department's annual recognition ceremony. This evening we honor bravery. This evening we honor sacrifice. This evening we honor excellence of the men and women who have dedicated their lives to protecting Indianapolis. Tonight, of course, we also honor and remember the great Bobby Halton. Firefighters had a champion like no other in Bobby Halton. Many of us were lucky enough to witness his passion firsthand, the passion that he had for his profession. Some of us were unfortunate enough to have to follow Bobby Halton after he gave you some of his passion. There is no doubt, though, that he would greatly admire those individuals that we are honoring tonight. Individuals who have demonstrated special merit, going above and beyond the already high expectations of our firefighters and emergency personnel. Like Bobby, and like every other Indianapolis resident, I am grateful to all who choose to take on the tough jobs of emergency personnel and first responders. That has never been truer than over these past 3 years. Then again, when it comes to IFD, we expect nothing less. Indeed, as long as there has been an Indianapolis, there has been an Indianapolis Fire Department. IFD represents 2 centuries of an unbroken chain of commitment to this city we call home, Indianapolis. From the construction of the first engine house in the 1830s to the dedication of a new training facility this past December, Indianapolis is grateful for its firefighters. Yeah. So before tonight's honors are handed out, and if I might, on behalf of the entire city of Indianapolis, I want to thank Chief Ernie Malone and the men and the women of the Indianapolis Fire Department, both those with us and those we have lost, as well as their entire families. Congratulations to all tonight's honorees, whether sworn or civilian. Your bravery, your support make us safer and more secure. I give you my thanks.
Thank you, Mayor Hogsett. Throughout his 38 years of service, Chief Ernest Malone has often been described as a visionary, leader, mentor, a firefighter's firefighter, and a friend. During his 8.5 years as the chief of IFD, Chief Malone has created a rock-solid foundation of progressive and aggressive initiatives that for future generations will keep our firefighters safe and healthy well into retirement. Under the direction of Chief Malone, he and his team maintain IFD's status as a national leader in health, wellness, safety, tactics, training, cancer risk reduction, and peer support. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the Chief of the Indianapolis Fire Department, Chief Ernest Malone.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you all again for coming tonight. I am told that we have nearly 700 people in attendance at this ceremony. That makes it clear to me that I am not the only one who recognizes how special Indianapolis firefighters are. Thank you, Mayor Hogsett, for those kind words. We appreciate all that you have already done, and we certainly look forward to your continued leadership and support as we strive to move this department forward. Thank you, sir. Tonight we are here to recognize the members of the Indianapolis Fire Department for excellence in service. I won't be giving a long speech tonight as I'm having some trouble with blurriness in my right eye and it's hard to see some of the words on paper. Great. I can't tell you how much I appreciate your silence. I was afraid that that particular announcement would result in a loud, continuous applause and maybe even a standing ovation, so I appreciate that. As in the past, it is important to note that all of the award recipients were nominated and chosen by their peers, which only adds to the incredible honor it is to be nominated, let alone be a recipient of one of these awards. So please be sure to take the time this evening to congratulate all of our nominees. I would like to take the time to recognize the 294 firefighters currently on duty protecting us while we're here. Please give them a hand. I assure you they deserve it. During the ceremony, you will hear stories of incredible courage, commitment, and compassion. 3 words that I believe accurately describe Indianapolis firefighters. But before we begin tonight, I would like to acknowledge and thank all of our firefighters and civilian personnel for the incredible work they do every day. Thank you to our public safety and community partners who we have the great fortune to work with throughout the year. I won't call you all out by name and individually for the reason I just previously mentioned. Thank you to the award committee members and to all of our sponsors. Without them, this ceremony would not even close to becoming possible. You do a great job. Lastly, I'd like to recognize and thank our IFD command staff. These men and women work hard every day to support our firefighters' efforts, because what happens on the street with our firefighters is what this job is all about. Our country, our state, our cities endure in the dedication that keep our communities safe. I often remind, because you see folks, and this is very important for people to understand, it's not just what a firefighter may be doing at any given moment while his or her tour duty that makes them so special. It's what they're willing to do. When that tone goes off, it's what they're willing to do. That should always be admired, it should be respected, and I hope you appreciate it. Now on with our ceremony. As you hear the stories tonight and watch the videos, I believe that each of us will be filled with a sense of honor for those who came before us, a sense of pride for all that protect us today, and a profound hope for the future of our great fire service. This organization has been charged with a great responsibility. The people in our community are depending on us, and I promise you we will not let you down. It gives me, as it should all of you, great comfort in knowing that the men and women of the Indianapolis Fire Department are on duty and ready to assist our neighbors every call, every day, and every time. I offer my deepest appreciation and respect to each of you, and I am so proud to be serving with you. Thank you and enjoy the evening.
Thank you, Chief Mullen. It's pretty hard to put into one or two sentences just how profoundly affected we all were upon hearing the unexpected loss of our dear friend Bobby Halton on December 19th. For 16 years, it was at this point in the ceremony where Bobby would stand at this podium and passionately regale us with stories of history and lessons in courage, duty, honor, and sacrifice. He never missed an opportunity to razz the mayor or stoke a little competition with the police chief. Bobby was unapologetic in his devotion to God, country, and family, and he was a huge supporter of IFD, IEMS, IMPD, and the city of Indianapolis. Please join me in a moment of silence in Bobby's honor, followed by a short video.
Every time I have spoken here, I had every word I was going to say scripted. Not this year. Life is a struggle. It's a series of struggles. They say the most unfortunate people are those who never had to struggle valiantly. The most fortunate are those who've had to struggle valiantly but had help, had friends. I'm proud to be a firefighter. There's no higher aspiration, there's no greater ambition than to serve one's fellow citizens as a firefighter. Everyone here would agree that the fire service considers humility, honesty, integrity, hard work, courage, and personal responsibility to be the foundational values of our fire service culture. What we do and how we behave matters. If we periodically just step back and rededicate ourselves to the mission, it's always good to recommit, to pledge one's honor, to affirm that we are dedicated to a more noble cause. It's what sets us apart and gives us a sense of purpose and belonging. I am honored to be part of this brotherhood, this family, to stand with men and women and pledge their lives, their honor, to God, the mission, and one another. I am proud to be a firefighter. Thank you and God bless.
We are honored to be one of the first official engagements for the new guy, David Rhodes, who was recently selected to fill Bobby's role as the editor-in-chief of Fire and Rescue Media and serve as the education director for FDIC International. David is a 37-year fire service veteran who retired after spending his last 17 years as a battalion chief with the Atlanta, Georgia Fire Department. He is a chief elder for the Georgia Smoke Diver Program and has been a member of the FDIC command staff for over 20 years. He too is a friend of the Indy Fire Department and a huge supporter of what we are accomplishing here in Indianapolis. And we are excited to be part of Dave's success in his new role. Please welcome David Rhodes. Dave is here to present our first award of the evening, the 2023 FDIC Service Award.
Thank you, Rita, Chief Malone, Mayor. So it's been an interesting month. Bobby passed away on the 19th, and from the 20th until today, it's been nonstop. It's been pretty much nonstop. For those of you that don't know, Bobby kind of had this transition plan for about 3 or 4 years. And he was waiting on me to retire from Atlanta. And then in August of this year, him and Eric Schlett hired me full-time to shadow Bobby through this next conference. And then Bobby was going to step back, take an advisory role. Well, he's laughing now because he left us a little too soon, unexpectedly. But I'm thankful that he had quality of life, because you guys know he battled cancer for 15 years. And the guy texted me at 4:30 about some FDIC stuff. He talked to Diane at about 5, jumped on the elliptical, as he always did, and died. I mean, that's pretty good quality of life when you consider 15 years of cancer. No suffering other than his chemo treatments and stuff. So thank God for that. Thank God for that. He would not have wanted it any other way. So over this last month, a lot of you have called, and most of you have said, boy, you've got some big shoes to fill. But I don't look at it that way. I cannot fill Bobby Halton's shoes. But I have some damn broad shoulders to stand on. Now, Bobby had told me about this event. He told me it was like a 4, 5, 6 hour awards banquet in which they allowed him 4.5 hours to speak. So luckily he left me some notes, and I'm going to try to do my best to honor that commitment. Little story about Bobby. I live in a little town very close to Athens, Georgia. Now, I don't know if there's any football fans in here. Do you guys have football here? So I am exactly 12 minutes from Sanford Stadium, home of the Georgia Bulldogs, 2-time national champion, first time right here in Indianapolis. My youngest daughter is a cheerleader there, so our house is painted red and black. But Bobby came to my house last year after he had spoke at an event pretty close to where I live. And he came out and he wanted to ride around and see Athens. He heard me talk about football all the time. So I took him downtown Athens to give him the glory of the Georgia Bulldogs. And fate would have it, the Georgia Bulldog mascot, Uga, the big English bulldog, was sitting right there on the corner as we pulled up to a stoplight. Now, I don't know how many of you have seen this beast, but he was sitting there on the sidewalk just as like a statue, and as soon as we stopped, he commenced to licking himself where all male bulldogs like to lick themselves. And Bobby just stared at him. And he turned back and he looked at me, and he looked back at Uga, and he said, "Boy, I wish I could do that." And I said, "Bobby, that dog will bite you." Bobby was a servant. He was a servant of the people, fire service. For any of you who've ever taken any classes, you know I talk a lot about servant leadership. Well, hundreds of years ago, when our communities lived in tribes, everybody had a job in the tribe to make society work, to make the tribe work. One of the most honorable jobs there was the job of water carrier. And these water carriers would get up in the morning, grab clay jars or grab these bladders made out of animal skin, and they would walk to the nearest water source. And they would bring water back to the village, to the tribe. And these water carriers would do this sun up to sundown. But they brought life to the village. They were full of humility. They were full of love for their fellow tribesmen. And they were honorable. The job itself was a volunteer job. You had to ask to be a water carrier and be accepted. And it was the highest honor in the tribe because they knew the importance. It was true humility. It was sacrifice. Some of these folks would walk 20, 30, 40 miles a day. All they did, back and forth to the water source, carrying water. Some tribes, because of the soil, had to live so far away from the water source that it was a 24-hour-a-day operation, walking 50 miles a day. That's service. I get excited when I hear people talk about the fire service. A lot of us say fire department, but I like fire service. And we can't forget, that's what we do. We're here to serve the people of our communities. You guys are very fortunate. I've said it to many of you before. You got a great system here. You got great support. Be proud of that. Service can't be taken lightly. And I'm honored to be here to present the FDIC Service Award. And this year's recipient, Captain Steve Rowland. Steve Rowland began his career as a firefighter with the Warren Township Fire Department on January 7th, 1991. He served as an A-shift hazmat field training officer while at Warren Station 44, and through the Marion County Hazmat Task Force, he received the Woody Galenis Hazmat Award. His passion to serve didn't stop at the Warren Township. He also served 4 years as a volunteer on the White River Township, rising to the rank of lieutenant, conducting inspections, and doing public education. During his part-time work at White River, he started a Christmas giveaway program for families in need, where he coordinated the collection of toys, hosted wrapping parties, and helped firefighters deliver gifts to the families. IFD gained a valuable firefighter when we merged with Warren Township in 2007. After 13 years at 44s, he moved to IFD Station 2, where he served as the engineer. However, it wasn't until September of 2013 that we would discover the true value of this particular firefighter. Steve Rowland soon became Assistant Fire Marshal under retired Chief Courtney Gordon. Steve was a quick study, learning the job and keeping up with the ever-growing demands of being the Assistant Fire Marshal. This work ethic has not changed, while under the current Fire Marshal, Michael Beard. As the Assistant Fire Marshal, Steve served as the backbone to over 35,000 inspections conducted throughout the city of Indianapolis. He's respected by his peers in the fire service for his knowledge on code issues, education, and especially on our operating system, Mobile Eyes. It would be no surprise that when given the task to help with the transportation section of FDIC, Steve would not only do his best, but he would excel. Over the 9 years that Steve has been in charge of the transportation section for FDIC, he routinely brought ideas and innovations to make the transportation section better each year. Anyone who's been a part of the FDIC command staff understands the critical infrastructure needed that a smooth-running transportation section provides. Steve took the existing program to the next level by creating maps, spreadsheets to ensure a seamless operation. He organized and informed all members of the staff to ensure everything is ready and executed without fail. For the first 10 days that FDIC is in Indianapolis, Steve is always the first to arrive and the last to leave, making himself available 24/7 to answer calls and complete any tasks needing to be done. And in addition to that, when we come in for meetings and walkthroughs, these guys are calling us way before we get here to schedule rides. Now, I've been coming here. This is my home away from home. I mean, it truly is a second home to me. And I have a lot of friends here, so there's always somebody that's coming to pick me up at the airport. And it's so funny reading this and the personality of all those that serve and call to pick us up. The disappointment that I hear on the phone when I say, hey, I'm okay, I don't need a ride. I got somebody coming to get me. And they're like, okay. I mean, they want to do it. They want to be there to get you. So each of the over 200 plus vehicles, boats, and generators on display during FDIC is inspected by Captain Rowland's team prior to entering the building. Each piece must meet state standards of allowable fuel levels inside the structure, and Steve's team maintains safety standards at its utmost priority. That's an operation in itself. Prior to the show opening, Steve and his team inspect every square foot of the convention center and Lucas Oil Stadium for hazards, code violations, and potential safety issues. During the 2 days of hands-on training classes, the transportation group is responsible for making sure that the students who, quote, overslept or were out too late or partake in the local establishments a little bit too much and missed the bus are able to get to their class. Additionally, the transportation section is responsible for transporting VIPs from the airport to their hotel on requested special trips or the often I forgot something trip for the entirety of the FDIC. Steve has a work ethic that is second to none. And I'm sure you guys know, but join me in congratulating Steve on his recent appointment 2 days ago to Battalion Chief. So, Battalion Chief Steve Rowland, for your selfless efforts and expertise, for being a water carrier here, we are proud to award you the 2022 FDIC Service Award.
Congratulations, Chief Rowland, and well done and well deserved. Thank you, Chief Rhodes. We hope you all enjoyed the dinner and the awesome work by Antonia and her staff here at the Indiana Roof Ballroom. Let's give them a round of applause. In 2022, the IFD Retirees Club lost 36 of their members. Please help us take a look back and pay tribute to those we lost in 2022.
Well, I just tell them, I say, no matter where you're from, whether you're in town or out of town, this will always be your home. And we're all family here.
Sorrow is through the rain, lullaby, lullaby. Oh, our lives are poor and plain. Oh, my darling, lullaby. Oh, we met out on the street. Lullaby, lullaby. Oh, a dream is where we meet. Oh, my darling, lullaby. Do I love you? Yes, I do. Lullaby, lullaby. Wish I could take care of you. Oh, my darling, lullaby. Blessings on the east and west. lullaby, lullaby. And on my bird in your nest, oh my darling, lullaby. When you wake up sad and deep, lullaby, lullaby. Let my song lull you to sleep, oh my darling, lullaby. And if we never meet again, lullaby, lullaby. Hold me in your heart, best friend, oh my darling, lullaby.
I enjoyed myself immensely. Never had a day that I didn't honestly love the job. We all agreed it was probably the best time of our lives there, all of us together. And I'm just very fortunate and so glad that I was able to be a part of it. It's the best job in the world.
We now welcome the president of the Retired Firefighters Club, Mike Reeves, to read Fallen Firefighters Remembered, followed by a rousing rendition of Amazing Grace by the Indy Public Safety Pipes and Drums.
Fallen Firefighters Remembered. The nature of our business in the fire service is twofold, fire and EMS. Firefighting has been said to be one of the most dangerous jobs in the world, if not the most dangerous. Keeping in mind every time we answer the alarm in an emergency vehicle, we are risking our lives. We never know what is waiting for us around the corner, beyond that door or inside that window. The words we dread to hear: possible entrapment while on the way to an alarm. We run into people's houses we don't know, trying to make that rescue or put out the fire. Sometimes it's a rescue, sometimes it's a recovery, but whatever it may be, we risk our lives to serve the public. Sometimes it's the ultimate sacrifice of our own life trying to save the life of another. There are awards given here tonight for actions that were extraordinary and above and beyond the call of duty. In the Holy Bible, Book of John, chapter 15, verse 13, Jesus said, "Greater love has no one than this, that a man may lay down his life for his friends." Let us never forget the fallen firefighter.
That, by the way, was Bobby's favorite rendition of Amazing Grace, which is why we asked him to play it. It's called the Cajun Amazing Grace, and they did a great job. All righty. Our next award is the IFD Peer Leadership Award, sponsored by FDIC, Fire Engineering Magazine. This award was first presented in 1993 and is given to a firefighter who best demonstrates the qualities and characteristics of dependability, loyalty, attitude, responsibility, initiative, and desire. It is voted on by their peers. If I could have the 3 shift commanders come to the stage. They will read the names of the shift finalists. For those of you that are nominated, when your name is read, please stand at your table. Once the finalists are read for the shift commander will read the winning recipient's name. If you are the winning recipient, please come to the stage and receive your award. So we will start with the A shift, and we have Chief Ben Coe. There you go, that's your winner.
This is the winner? Yep. A shift's peer leader nominees: Lieutenant Marty Roberts, Captain Atu McTush, Private Paul Cloyd, Lieutenant Mike Boyd, Lieutenant Mike Manley, Lieutenant Todd Kirkham, and Engineer Tony Rizzi. And our A shift peer leader recipient is Lieutenant Michael Manley.
Congratulations, Mike. Next up, we have the B shift, Chief Rob Aldrich.
The B shift peer leader nominees are Captain Brian Hammett, Captain Chris Womack, Private David O'Connor, Engineer Scott Elliott, Private Mark Bradley, Lieutenant Pat Norton, and Private Todd Williams. I keep telling them they need those little envelopes, just have little things on them. Okay, and the winner of the B shift peer leader recipient is Private Mark Bradley.
Oh, is he over there? Congratulations, Mark. Next up, we have the C shift, Shift Commander Joe Ermer.
Good evening. The C shift peer leader nominees are Captain Vinnie Vaughn, Private Ross Taylor, Private Chris Boykley, Lieutenant Brad Mattis, Lieutenant Patrick Butler, Lieutenant Jennifer Cobb, and Private Karen Newton. I have a little more trouble than everybody else opening envelopes. The C-Shift Peer Leader recipient is Captain Vinnie Vaughn. Okay.
So we'll get this to Captain Vaughn. All right. Congratulations to all the recipients. The hard work and dedication of the firefighters of the IFD and their compassion for helping the people of our great city are always on display. We present you the following 2022 video, which offers you a glimpse of what we do every day. Take a look.
A firefighter is a dedicated professional with no real limit to the kinds of emergency he faces. A firefighter does his job under conditions unique to the emergency services, where the emergency he faces is not one that's already happened, but rather one that is happening now, and which keeps growing in intensity until he stops it.
Yet it is these firemen that we depend upon to save our cities from absolute devastation when fire strikes.
You'll be called in on collisions, cave-ins, explosions, suicides, heart attacks, homicides, arson, poisonings, scaldings, electrocutions, and every other kind of human misery people get themselves involved in. You won't like many of the things you'll see.
But fire knows no bounds. It hits the poor and the rich alike. It strikes day or night. It claims as its victims buildings large and small, public and private.
From high aerial platforms and bottoms of smoke-crammed basements. You'll work at ground level in garages and on ledges of high buildings. You'll fight fires that seem to be one big rolling explosion, and you won't know what else will explode, or when, or where. And chances are there won't be anyone around to tell you. Heat will seem unbearable, but you'll know that firefighters everywhere are facing these situations daily throughout the country. And you'll stay in there until you beat it down to your size and control it. You'll go out in weather so cold every drop of water that leaves your hose line will turn to ice. You'll work in freezing cold that bites into everything you wear, touch, or even look at. And it will leave you with a crystallized mass of equipment more difficult to handle than the fire you fought with it. You'll work with people young and old, from infants to senior citizens. And most of the things they build their worlds around.
Each of the many jobs involved has to be practiced over and over until you learn to do them instinctively. Every job, no matter how menial, has its place in fitting you for those times when you must prove your right to be called a fireman. And the real fireman is the one who puts in his share of time at the station, helping get the equipment ready for an alarm that may come all too soon. But when it comes, you've got to be ready to roll. Rain or sleet, day or night, you've got to get there fast. But get there all in one piece. Somebody's home, a job, or a life may be at stake. And it's up to you to prove you've trained well.
Your real working time will not be measured in minutes as much as in heartbeats.
Every man knows his job. And within seconds after arrival, the men are ready to attack the fire.
It gets hotter and nastier each step of the way. You don't know what's ahead, only that somewhere in that concentration of toxic gases, there's a smoldering fire starving for oxygen. Deep inside the smoke, it's a dead, weird world of its own. Quiet except for the breathing action of your apparatus and the slosh of feet through hot water flowing down from hose lines on floors above you. where others are working deep inside the building. The only people in the whole world who know what kind of hell it is inside a burning structure are the only ones to go in there, firefighters. It's their personal workshop, the place they really earn their pay. Hot tar and molten metal raining down from above. A running fire's treacherous behavior. The threat of electrocution from charged wires. Burned out flooring and hot cutting edges hidden in the debris. Overhead is always the officer's great concern. The whole crew can get it from collapsing timbers or heavy machinery, so he listens for that particular snap or rumble. It may be the only warning he'll get, or you'll get. He's a lot more concerned about where the fire is going than where it's at. Fire moves quickly and in undetermined directions. In order to stop it, he must make decisions against time, under stress, and during maximum distraction. There's no time to second guess. His plan of attack must cover all sides and be flexible enough to change direction as fast or faster than the fire. To move with the fire. Get ahead of the fire. Flank it. Confine it. Kill it. You'll soon learn that the public doesn't understand the things you do outside where people can see you, and can never appreciate what you do inside where they can't see you. Just remember that you're the help someone needs desperately and in a hurry, and that you're a member of the only outfit in the world trained and equipped for just that kind of action.
What was a roaring inferno is now only a slightly damaged house, still structurally intact. This is the result of the skill, the knowledge, and the teamwork that should be the goals of every fireman.
Alrighty. In his 14th year at the podium, 10-time Emmy Award-winning journalist Scott Sander joins us tonight in helping IFD tell our story. Many of you may see Scott during his early morning anchor duties at Wish TV, listen to his podcast, Business Equity and Opportunities, or have heard him at the Motor Speedway on race morning, trolling the pits and pagoda for interviews. In 2021, he joined the IndyCar Radio Network for his own rookie season as a pit reporter for the 500. While Scott calls it the biggest thrill of his career, we know our event ranks a pretty close second. Right? Please help me welcome our host and friend, Scott Sander. Can you call the mayor?
Sure.
Okay.
It's a close second, but it's also the night I'm reminded every year that a firefighter, Joel Harson, is better at television than those of us who try to do it for a living. So, before I get into a couple of comments, we would like to bring up the mayor and Chief Malone so you can help us with the awards. With what I do, I'm reminded, especially the more years that I do this, that there are two sides to every fire, those dealing with it inside and those dealing with it outside. And I know that some of your houses this year already have had a tough one. And we'll doubtlessly be talking about them this time next year, celebrating the effort and, of course, hoping for good outcomes. But please understand that coming from the civilian side of this, just knowing there are people out there who will rush in with passion and urgency and love, no matter what the outcome is, means a tremendous amount. So if I've not said that in the past or said it often enough, thank you, sincerely. Want to, of course, make welcome David Rhodes to answer his question real quickly. Yes, we have football here. We don't talk much about it this year. We have an outstanding bulldog, however, in Butler Blue. I've never seen Blue with the kind of activity you described, but they put him in kind of a longer sweater than Uga, so maybe that's something that you can take back to Athens with you. I'm sitting with a fire marshal this year, which is an honor. I'm a little nervous because looking at some of these scenarios, we may be testing the capacity limits of the stage. So if you need to wave a hand or anything, we can put a couple up front here. By the way, the note about don't walk behind me, that's not like a writer in some rock contract. That's Rita. You can walk by me, that's fine, but you'll be crossing her if you do. And so there's that. That's enough about me talking. So let's get into these scenarios and honor the people, you, who do so much for our community in so many ways. First, I want to make welcome and bring up to the stage Scott Gates, Kevin Schaefer, Rick Allgood, Randall Hadler, Elbert Davidson, Brian Fleck, Daniel Linderman, Brian Weishart, David Kelly, Alan Pekarik, Rick Taylor, Matthew Bassard, Trevor Hanshu, Matthew Hightoff, Tara Peterman, John Peach, and Jeffrey Quinn. First group is always the guinea pig, so we'll go ahead and start the description of what they've done so well, and then each progressive group will get faster, or Rita will get madder, so just be warned. Since 2012, these 17 IFD paramedics have provided volunteer medical support to the 3,000 veterans from Indiana as part of the Indy Honor Flight program. The veterans fought in World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. Indy Honor Flight is one of 130 honor flight hubs in the United States and is responsible for flying more than 250,000 veterans on a once-in-a-lifetime trip to Washington, D.C. For many of these veterans, it is the only time they've been honored for their service. During their trip, the veterans receive a VIP tour of the World War II Memorial, the Korean War Memorial, the Vietnam Wall, the Lincoln Memorial, the prestigious changing of the guard to the Tomb of the Unknowns at Arlington National Cemetery. While at the tomb, the guard on duty will drag or scrape the ground while walking to honor the veterans in attendance. No other group or person, including the president, receives that honor. From start to finish, the medics are on a constant watch for the group of veterans, pre-flight, in-flight, while on the ground, back to Indiana as well. That activity does not stop for the 72-hour event, which begins at the meet and greet dinner the night before the flight. Prior to the trip, the IFD medics review the medical history and current condition for each veteran on the flight. Most will also personally meet with the veteran to discuss potential medical issues. Since the inception of the Indy Honor Flight in 2012, the Indianapolis Fire Department has provided paramedics and equipment to fly each of the 37 missions to Washington, D.C. Chief Malone, in fact, has even been on a flight. Mission 38 is scheduled for April 15th of this year. Firefighters, for your willingness to go above and beyond, we award you the IFD Public Service Award. Groups to follow, watch the way this is done. You'll be the teacher's pet. And then don't walk behind me, for heaven's sakes. Our second scenario in your program, please make welcome Murphy Pellman, Jackie DeBow, Tyler Cox, and Zach Phipps. With more than 2,100 clubs in the United States, most firefighters are familiar with Planet Fitness. Many are members at a club near them. You can almost hear the purple over there, and often find themselves working out on that purple-trimmed equipment, staying ready and keeping fit for work. While having our firefighters in their club is awesome for Planet Fitness, bringing the gym to the firehouse is even better. In 2019, Operations Project Manager Murphy Pellman brought an initiative to establish a relationship with IFD and asked if we would be interested in a donation of some gently used equipment. The company was in process of replacing the club equipment with some newer models. The reply from IFD was, yes, please. List of equipment is long and varies from strength equipment to cardio. Most of it's in perfect condition, would otherwise have been refurbished and resold. In 3 years, Planet Fitness has provided IFD with more than 40 sets of fitness equipment valued at more than $6,000. If IFD had to buy that equipment new, the approximate cost would be $135,000. With input from each of 44 IFD stations in the IFD Health and Wellness Division, A donation by Planet Fitness has provided IFD firefighters the ability to improve their physical fitness and work capacity while at the station. At the IFD Health and Wellness Center, the equipment donated by Planet Fitness has been used to help members recover from a number of medical injuries and illnesses. COVID recovery, cancer, diabetes, COPD, traumatic brain injury, stroke, heart attacks, joint replacement, musculoskeletal injuries, work performance deficiencies, all of these have improved outcomes because of the efforts of the folks here on the stage. Their donation's been instrumental with rehab work, conditioning, general physical preparedness. Through their generous efforts, they've been a key factor in the health and wellness of our members. So Murphy Pellman, Jackie DeBow, Tyler Cox, and Zach Phipps, we're honored to award you the IFD Citizens Commendation. Please come forward, Mickey Earpeards, Scott Pruitt, Scott Karcher, Leslie Wilson, Brian Kovaleski, Bill Floyd, George Scott, Matt Brown, Patrick Jordan, Charles Knott, Mike Lannon, Jason Horning, Dane Nutty, Kenneth Jackson, Eric Ramsey, Scott Floyd, and Jeff Vanderwall. Sometimes the best ideas start out as a simple conversation, and knowing a good idea then when you actually hear one in that chat. January 2020, it was Scott Floyd and Jeff Vanderwall brainstorming on how to take the IFD hazardous material program to the next level. They decided what IFD needed was a hazmat training ground. Scott made his first call to CSX and put in a request for gently used equipment, at least put it on the radar. The words, "Please call us if you come across anything." 10 months later, then in October, CSX called back, "We have a train car, if you're interested." So the IFD Hazmat Training Ground was off and running. Over the next couple of years, Scott Floyd would spearhead the project under the guidance of the Special Ops Division Chief. Planning for the grounds at Station 44 started to take shape, and sort of a wish list of equipment was compiled. Word was out that IFD had plans in place to create something that no other area fire department had, and these extraordinary people helped put it together, stepping up. CSX, Tram Construction, Garner's Towing, Superior Tank, Grady Brothers Asphalt, M&M Transport Services, Westside Tractor Sales, Alden Company, Hulcher Professional Services, Greenfield Fire Department, and the Indy Public Safety Foundation, also with Brentag Indianapolis and the Indianapolis DPW, all played vital parts in the creation of the new training grounds. Whether the donation was a rail car or tankers, saddle tanks, transfer tanks, car blocks, rail track, asphalt, concrete, gravel, submitting giant paperwork, or just the willingness to lift and move equipment from one location to the other. In all, close to $200,000 of large-scale hazmat equipment has been donated to this project at no cost to IFD. That's the sound of the mayor celebrating over there. Hazardous materials incidents are low-frequency but high-risk events that crews must train for in order to successfully mitigate when the time comes. This new hazmat training grounds will allow not only IFD firefighters to protect their skills in a realistic environment, but to do so in partnership with agencies that we respond with alongside. IFD is truly grateful for your partnership. We could not do it without you. Firefighters Floyd, Vanderwall, Horning, along with Dane Nutty and Stephen Pruitt, we award you the IFD Public Safety Certificate of Merit, and the remainder of you, we award you the IFD Citizens Commendation. It's getting all red carpety up here. Do you see this? Come forward, Larry Sayre, Christina Engelking, Matthew Wickwire, Blake Harvey, Michael Perry, Alex Hall, Shane Kallenberg, Dennis Payne, Todd Payne, Lindsay Raker, Joseph Molman, Darren Lewis, Stephen Horan, Chase Clark, Caleb Kennedy, Diane Martin, Luke Brunson, and Aaron Daniel. Shortly after 5 o'clock in the afternoon on a hot, humid Tuesday, July 12th, IFD firefighters would be called to the area of Southport Trace and Gray Road to mitigate an incident unlike any they'd ever seen. No one on the scene that evening had ever encountered anything like this. IFD and IMPD responded to a report of cardiac arrest. On arrival, they discovered this would be no simple cardiac arrest, but instead an obvious death investigation with 2 adults found deceased in a hot tub full of water. Without going into too many details, what firefighters found was unpleasant to say the least, but they were faced with the challenge of removing the victims from the tub and preserving as much of the scene for the integrity of the investigation as possible. It was estimated that the victims had been in the water close to 2 weeks. Crews started the process of discussions with the coroner's office and with police investigators, Marion County Health, Southport Police as well, about the best way to handle the situation. Again, no one had ever dealt with this specific type of incident before. IFD was tasked with thinking a way outside the box, coming up with a plan. It would take close to an hour's worth of brainstorming just to come up with ideas and land on one that was agreeable to all. Firefighters from IFD Hazmat 13 suited up in Level A suits, as did personnel from the coroner's office, to jointly remove the victims from the hot tub. The process involved providing the coroner's office with the appropriate protective gear and setting up a decontamination corridor to be at the ready. The long extrication process took about 45 minutes. Once the victims were secured, they now had to remove and contain more than 400 gallons of unsafe water from the tub. It was decided members of Hazmat team would hand pump the 400 gallons of water into large yellow overpack barrels that held about 60 gallons each. Members of the Hazmat team began to prepare for this next phase as other firefighters on the scene kept coordinating decontamination efforts on the perimeter. It would take another hour for the 4 firefighters to complete the portion of the incident, and once again another 45 minutes for decontamination and scene cleanup. It truly was an all-hands, very patient effort. Time on the scene from start to finish, 6 hours, 15 minutes. Firefighters, for your willingness to go above and beyond to mitigate this truly unique incident, we award you the IFD Unit Commendation. Our 5th scenario of the evening: David Manley, Matthew Hickey, John Wilson, and Ronald Sanders. Take you back to a frigid evening of just less than a year ago, February 19th, 7:30. Engine 12 and Pike Fire Department were dispatched to a 3-car PI, an accident with entrapment at 56th and Northland Road. Dispatch reported 1 car was inverted and on fire with a partially ejected victim. Engine 12 arrived first on scene. Upon approach, they could see a number of cars, debris scattered across the road, and 1 inverted vehicle on fire. Multiple bystanders were aggressively trying to get the victim out. At the same time, Sanders and Wilson deployed the bumper line as the fire had already breached the passenger compartment of the inverted vehicle, exposing the victim to the flames. While waiting for the line to charge, the 2 worked in concert trying to extract the victim from the car. However, they were met with resistance as the victim was either caught on something or pinned against the roof. Acting Rideout Officer Hickey, upon completing a 360-degree survey of the scene, accounted for 4 patients and 1 deceased victim. Upgraded the incident, requested more medics. Through their concentrated efforts, they discovered the victim's arm went through the sunroof. The car, then being inverted, had pinned her arm beneath the roof and the icy road conditions. As Sanders attempted to pull the victim out, his right glove came partially off, exposing his hand. He quickly flicked his wrist to get the glove off, went to grab another grab of the victim without regard for his hand or his safety. The inverted car was now melting plastic from the interior and landed on his hand, resulting in burns. The line was now charged, though. Sanders put his glove back on over his burned hand. He and Wilson then put out the fire. Again, Sanders and Wilson re-entered the car, this time to provide basic life support while waiting for Pike Fire Department to raise the vehicle and free the victim's arm at long last. While Wilson and Sanders were in the car with the victim, the car caught fire again. From his position on the pump panel, Engineer Manley could see the car had reignited, quickly took the line, and put out the fire. Hickey was relieved of command upon Pike's arrival, allowing Hickey then time to get first aid gear to the Sanders and Wilson team inside the car. Upon Pike's latter arrival, they braced the car and attempted to lift the vehicle with the jaws of life, but had to upgrade the struts to the car due to the slick road conditions. It was tough getting purchase. Their teamwork, desire for a positive outcome, unity of effort contributed to the victim's successful extrication and survival. 4 victims were transported from the scene. Firefighters, for your quick and selfless actions, we award you the IFD Unit Commendation. Private Isaac Torres, please come forward. Cheering sections are just the best. Please don't hold back. May 22nd, Private Isaac Torres was working a 24-hour trade time on Station 1. Normally assigned to the A shift, this day would be B shift. Just before 10 in the morning, a car pulled up on the approach with a female passenger experiencing what was assumed to be difficulty breathing. Her family in tow was Hispanic and encountered a language barrier almost immediately. Private Torres stepped up, using his bilingual skills, made the family feel at ease, and provided EMS care to the patient. Shortly after EMS arrived, she was transported to the hospital to be checked out. The family left in the car, following the medic to the hospital. After the departure of the medic and the car, firefighters now noticed an adult woman, 8 months pregnant, sitting on the bench outside the station with a 2-year-old child in tow. Firefighters thought she was accidentally left behind by the family that had just left, and again, there was another language barrier. Private Torres began communication with the woman to find out why she was not with the previous family, but in fact, encountered a much different circumstance. She had just left her abusive husband and was seeking safety and refuge at the firehouse. The distraught woman told Private Torres she'd recently come here from Guatemala, did not speak English, and had no other family in the United States. Private Torres made her feel comfortable and provided her with food and water. He then began using his contacts to try to find shelter for her and her child. Several women's shelters replied they were full and no shelter would be available until the next day. At the same time, IMPD called the woman's phone because her husband had reported her missing. The officer later came to the station to speak with the woman directly. Due to no shelters being available, Private Torres paid for a room out of his own pocket, and the IMPD officer took the family to the hotel. Private Torres' mother is from Colombia, father is from Ecuador. Private Torres is first in his generation to live in the United States. Private, we're proud of you, and we recognize your efforts to go above and beyond to help another human, and we award you the IFD Public Safety Service Commendation. I tell my peers when I go back and they ask me about this, I say the best stuff is the stuff that wasn't in the manual, you know. Christopher Cage, please come forward. In addition to his 20-year career with IFD, spending a vast majority of that time both on backstep and supervisor for Engine 20, Chris has been a practicing attorney for more than 26 years. He has served as a master commissioner, appointed judge since 2014, presiding over thousands of civil and criminal matters. In both his role as a firefighter and as an attorney judge, he has observed firsthand devastating effects of abuse and neglect on the most helpless in our society, our children. His dual careers offer him a rare insight into the conditions of some homes, family stability, and poverty in real time. His capacity as judge forces him to consider the challenges and benefits for dealing with families facing such circumstances. Not only has he had to listen to and decide tough cases and take action in the best interests of children, he has taken things even further. Since its formation, he has always volunteered for and served on the board of directors of Turn Away No Longer. He has helped lead fundraising efforts and guided the not-for-profit from its initial formation through its growth and expansion of services and programs. Current project is for the creation of a temporary home for children who've been removed because of neglect in the home. When a child is removed from the home due to allegations of abuse or neglect, it is clearly one of the most traumatic experiences they will ever know in their life. Often it's more traumatic than the initial reason that they've been removed in the first place. Frightened and uncertain for what a future may hold, they're lost, nothing makes sense, nothing provides them comfort, It's a most challenging and tough moment for a child, and the next several hours and days are often just uncomfortable and uncertain with the unknown. Right now, current option for DCS workers is to take the child back to DCS offices for hours or overnight. Sometimes that may mean waiting long hours in the office or sleeping on chairs or on the floor while waiting for placement and dealing with all of that, again, sort of emotional uncertainty. Turn Away No Longer, TANL, his fundraising focus for 2022 was the creation of the TANL House for Department of Child Services. The house will serve as a safe and comfortable place for foster youth to stay while they're awaiting placement. It'll be equipped with bedrooms, bathrooms, living area, kitchen, dining room, and a backyard, while also including office space for the social workers. Lieutenant Cage's passion and desire to serve his community in a multitude of ways is extraordinary. Lieutenant Cage, we award you the IFD Public Service Award. Please come forward, Scott Shamala. June 10, 2022, firefighter Scott Shamala was visiting Indiana Dunes State Park up northwest corner with his family when he witnessed an active water rescue happening. State Park lifeguards immediately started performing CPR while swimming the 72-year-old victim back to the shore. Firefighter Shamala jumped into action, meeting the lifeguards at the water's edge and helping drag the victim out of the water. Identifying himself as an off-duty firefighter, he immediately relieved a young lifeguard and joined an Indiana conservation officer in CPR. As lifeguards prepared emergency equipment, Scott was vital in keeping everyone calm, cool, and collected. He provided clear and direct instructions to the lifeguard while continuing to perform CPR. Once local fire personnel arrived, he kept helping, preparing an AED and helping with the more advanced medical equipment. The victim had been submerged in about 7 feet of water for 15 to 20 minutes. He was not breathing and had no pulse when brought to shore. His pulse was restored. He survived another 5 hours before passing away, surrounded by family. Firefighter Shamala's actions were above and beyond and are of great representation to the dedication and professionalism of the Indianapolis Fire Department, both off and on duty. For your quick actions and willingness to help give this man the best chance at survival, we award you the IFD Public Safety Service Commendation. Please make welcome Carl Lyle and officers Katie Reinard and Chris Reinard. For this firefighter, being a good neighbor took on a whole new meaning afternoon of Saturday, July 2nd. Katie Reinard had just returned to her home in Wanamaker when she started feeling bad and instinctively knew something was not right. She managed to gather enough energy to walk to her neighbor's house, who knew she was a nurse, only to find out no one was home. Fighting through pain, Katie made it back to her front porch and called her husband, Chris, who happened to be spending the day at Lake Monroe with friends. Katie explained something was not right. Chris said, "I'm on the way." Katie, however, knew she could not wait on Chris to arrive home before going to the hospital. She retrieved her department radio and requested a medic to her home. Katie and Chris are both IMPD officers, and Katie is a daughter of IFD Deputy Chief Tim Robinson. At the same time, Chris called IFD firefighter Carl Lyle, who lives in the neighborhood and is also an IMPD SWAT medic on the SWAT team with Chris. Carl was off duty on the day and immediately dropped what he was doing and rushed to their home to help Katie. After a few quick questions and a rapid assessment of Katie's condition, Carl knew Katie was in trouble. He knew they did not have time to wait for a medic truck. They needed to get her to the emergency room. Carl helped Katie in his department vehicle and headed off to St. Francis. A few miles down the road, at about I-74 and Post Road, Katie felt sicker and said she was going to pass out. Carl flipped on his red lights and ran emergent to the hospital. Upon arrival, Carl rushed in, got a wheelchair to get Katie inside, alerted emergency room personnel what was happening, and bringing in a critical patient, and they were ready for her. Almost immediately, Katie was under doctor's care. Carl volunteered to stay until Chris arrived. Officer Katie Reinard sustained a critical condition miscarriage that day. The ER doctor informed Chris and Katie that if she would have waited for medic to arrive at her house, however, she would have bled out internally and died. Carl was the guardian angel who kept that from happening. Carl Lyle, for your quick action, we award you the Public Safety Certificate of Merit. I think we may test the capacity limits on this one of the stage. Here we go. Tamak Moore, Mark Rapp, Evan Wallace, Kaylin Marshall, Christopher Strait, Stephen Morris, Gregory Rapp, Anthony Reddington Noble, Janique Kelly, Christopher Bockley, Kevin Vonderheide, Craig Smith, Brian Sullivan, Kyle Zenner, Terry Matula, Douglas McGinnis, Travis Reddy, Damon Fine, Kyle Davis, Matthew Hightoff, Hunter Rush, Aaron Sundheimer, Timothy Jennings, Luke Snyder, Stephen Hilk, Courtney Marshall, John Slugy, Nicholas Bell, Jeffrey Mattingly, Scott Pryor, Kenneth Edwards, Michael Hamilton, Jeffrey Harper, John Freeman, Adam Godin, Timothy Revolt, James Rackley, Mitchell Blackwell. For these firefighters, what started out as a routine Wednesday morning turned out to be anything but after being dispatched to an apartment fire, 4331 Linwood Court. On arrival, first arriving crews found fire showing from the three-story building on two sides and frantic occupants trying to evacuate. Residents told firefighters that when smoke alarms sounded, they heard it, but ignored it. After all, smoke alarms in their building came all the time. By the time they figured out what this was and was not a drill, heavy smoke had already filled the hallway. With visibility almost zero, fire was pushing out of an apartment on the ground floor. One mother told firefighters she had to drag her two children down the hallway to escape. A teenage boy jumped the second-story window to safety. Working together, these firefighters deployed ground ladders, made entry into the structure, attacked the fire. In all, brought approximately 20 victims through the windows, down ground ladders, and through the main doors of the building on two sides, and rescued 5 cats. 4 of the occupants were hard of hearing and required additional attention. Multiple requests for additional ambulances were made as residents required on-scene checkout or transport. The first 15 minutes of this fire required team effort of every hand on deck. Due to the quick actions of these firefighters, no one was severely hurt. The fire was marked under control in less than 20 minutes. Firefighters, for your quick actions and ability to work together as a team, we award you the IFD Unit Commendation. We'll get you a microphone next year. Please come forward. Lee Parrish, Brent Pratt, I beg your pardon, David Aker, Benjamin Patterson, Andy Possiman, Sean Brinson, Andrew Brummett, David Shields, Kenny Lang, Jerry Gebhardt, Matthew Hines, Andrew Heinecker, Joseph Dietz, and Thomas Farrington. Take you back to the early morning hours of May 9th. 911 dispatch got a fire alarm activation at the El Dorado Apartments, west side of Indianapolis. IFD crews were dispatched to investigate the alarm. Unknown to both the dispatcher and the firefighters, a glitch in the alarm system sent the crews to the wrong address. Crews went to the address to which they were dispatched, only to find nothing showing on their arrival, no evacuation in progress. As they continued to investigate, firefighters by chance saw heavy fire through a glass door in another building 1 street over. Firefighters quickly regrouped on the location of the fire. It was 3656 Green Ash Court. Given that this was 3:30 in the morning and most likely a fully occupied building, crews immediately jumped into action and initiated an aggressive interior attack. Ladder crews breached the interior and started a search and rescue. Battalion 7 arrived on the scene, assumed command, and gave the size up. Heavy fire on the second floor, impinging on the other apartments. Second alarm was requested for more help. 5-story building was heavily charged with thick black smoke. A number of hand lines were advanced into the structure, ground ladders placed at a number of windows. Several residents appeared on the balcony of the 3rd floor preparing to jump for safety, so firefighters laddered to the building and helped 2 adults and 2 children down the ladder to safety instead. In all, 19 occupants were rescued, with 3 transported to area hospitals for smoke inhalation. The fire was extinguished and brought under control in just under a half hour. Fortunately, there were no serious injuries. No firefighters were injured in the incident. Due to the complexity of the layout of the apartment complex, the apparatus placement was very difficult. They had little room to move the equipment once it was placed. The first arriving companies had to be flexible in the order of arrival functions to facilitate the evolutions needed to successfully mitigate the incident. Teamwork, in other words. Once again, this is a true testament to the professionalism and training of our firefighters, and firefighters for your ability to work together as a team and mitigate this incident. We award you an IFD Unit Commendation. Please come forward Mitchell Dem, Dylan Rivera, William Stewart, Brendan Sullivan, Timothy Zeich, Sean Chesbro, Ken Harden, Kyle Rader, Kip Seidenstucker, Eric Baynard, Ron Kautsky, Gregory Rapp, Stephen Morris, John Radecki, Daniel Lister, Abel Redding, Damon Fine, Douglas McGinnis, Germark Leiner, Kimberly Pierce, Travis Bender, Adam Godin, Travis Reddy, Douglas Raker, Nicholas Volkman, and Eric Freeman. Just before midnight, July 10th, TAC 7 was dispatched for a dive topwater rescue on Interstate 70 eastbound at Emerson near a known retention pond. On the way, 911 dispatch arrived TAC 7 that it was a motor vehicle accident with extrication, but the car was inverted in the water. First units in advised of a working entrapment, 2 patients, 1 occupant trapped underneath the inverted car in a shallow creek. Life-saving efforts were immediately made by Ladder 20 to position the patient's head out of the water. Squad 10 and Engine 20 provided ALS medical care with the patient conscious and alert but in critical condition, the car resting on the patient's waist and leg. Ladders 10 and 20 worked diligently to gain patient access through stabilizing the car and removing the driver door. Additional crews made their way down the embankment while searching with a thermal imaging camera through the tall brush for a possible 3rd occupant. Due to the car being inverted in a creek, a tactical decision was made to quickly lift the car off the pinned person using airbags and a portable air controller. Complicating the efforts were thick mud and water that challenged the crews placing the airbags underneath the car, and another one, a loaded handgun nearby the patient. The gun was removed and given on scene to police. Within moments, the car was lifted off the patient, freeing both waist and legs, and the patient now needed to be moved up the steep embankment, which typically would be a daunting task, but not for this team. In all, this incident, the remarkable number of moving parts, took just under an hour to successfully mitigate. The occupants were transferred to awaiting IEMS crews and taken to a local Level 1 trauma center in critical condition. Firefighters, for your efforts and ability to work together as a team, we award you the IFD Unit Commendation. For 14 years, I've stuck to the script. Rita says that I can, if I am invited back next year, have another civilian service pin. I think I'm about to blow that. I want to make you aware of scenario 12B. Please come forward, Rita Wright. We want to take a couple of minutes to say thank you and honor you for the work you do with the Indianapolis Fire Department as Public Information Officer. Rita took over the PIO position in 2008. Believe it or not, MySpace was the most popular social media platform at that time. And I just dated all of us. That's fun. By 2011, Rita was beginning to post on Facebook, and now we have 100,000 followers. More than 370,000 followers on the Nextdoor application, which makes for fun reading, by the way. Social media presents many challenges for her and requires constant monitoring to ensure the posts are accurate, timely, and informative. These efforts with social media run parallel with her responding to an average of 206 incidents a year and putting out an average of 270 media releases. The time it takes to verify the facts and make sure that these are consistent with the internal and external information is vital. Anything put out from her office is considered fact by our media partners. The demands from the media can be overwhelmingly difficult, and Rita seems to excel each time. In addition, the Public Information Officer is also involved with representing or coordinating many outreach activities in which the department participates. Examples include incident response, press conference, large partner events like the Colts, the Pacers, Indy 500, NCAA events, National Night Out, FOIA requests, badges for burn camp, scheduling apparatus for events, and many, many more. Rita also plays a significant role in department events like tonight's banquet. She has also been on the committee since 1997 in some capacity and has been the MC for the event since 2008. She's instrumental in making sure the banquet runs smoothly and that we adequately honor the actions of firefighters every year. She's also involved in the planning, coordination, and distribution of the IFD yearbook, recruit graduation ceremonies, promotion ceremonies, working with Chief Malone to coordinate his quarterly reports to the department, and many other department-related activities. Rita, for your tireless effort, your sleepless nights, your countless hours working to provide with the necessary and accurate information, our public, and sharing the actions and sacrifices of our firefighters, we present you with the Public Safety Service Certificate of Merit. As you probably know, she has veto power in this event. That's why we had to keep that secret. Don't walk behind me. Okay.
You're not coming back.
I'm not coming back, she says. It's all right. I never learned how to pronounce Hightoff the right way anyway. Every year. Richard Cook, Sean Wood, Billy Williams, Patrick Yoler, and Leon Essig, please come forward. Under the direction of a 29-year veteran, Chief Richard Cook, IFD Quartermaster, has gained national attention for efforts to build a program that is a national model for firefighter personnel protective equipment, PPE, clearing and cleaning and maintenance. Cancer is, as we have talked about many times over the years, a major concern among firefighters due to the various carcinogens in the working environment. Chief Cook and his team embraced Chief Malone's request for reducing cancer risk among our firefighters. Through planning and developing a personal protective equipment laundering program for the department, the vision included centralized washing facility that would accommodate the volume of roughly 1,300 firefighters, each with 2 sets of PPE. Not only do these firefighters wash each of the 2 sets of firefighter gear, they inspect, repair, and provide a 24-hour turnaround delivery service to each member of IFD. Firefighters simply fill out a computerized request and the quartermaster personnel pick it up, service it, and deliver PPE in less than 24 hours. It has led to improved health and wellness for our firefighters, efficiencies gained by reducing the number of laundering facilities the department must maintain, and a cost savings by providing better maintenance to the PPE, which is an expensive component of the job. Additionally, the vision included an accountability system for quartermaster inventory and asset management. All PPE is QR coded. Inventory is easily managed. Firefighters are then able to get online and shop, if you will, for the needed uniform and PPE items in an online store. The orders are picked up and delivered, again by quartermaster personnel. This has led to significant efficiencies of time and money, improving the department's awareness and capability of resources. The IFD Quartermaster Division is unmatched in the service provided to each and every firefighter. They're professional, competent, and always help with a pleasant demeanor. They're quick to respond with solutions when presented with requests and open to suggested improvements or issues and are proactive in resolving them. Gentlemen, for your teamwork, your ability to make IFD better, we award you the IFD Public Safety Service Commendation. Have a sneaking suspicion they love you too. That's Chief Malone, M-A-L-O-N-E. Sean Brinson, Andrew Brummett, Andy Possiman, William Harold, David Aker, Gail Fogel, Brent Pratt, and John Sauer. Take you back to October, early morning hours of Sunday, the 9th. These firefighters from IFD Station 30 made an aggressive rescue of a driver after his car went down an embankment near 34th and Lafayette Road and into water. Firefighters got to the scene shortly after 5 in the morning to find a blue car inverted in a retention pond with reports of multiple occupants inside. Without hesitation, 6 firefighters entered the mucky, waist-deep water and made contact with the car. All the windows and doors were intact. The crew was able to open one of the doors, and the man's arm reached out for them. Working together, they quickly pulled him out, and several carried him up the embankment to awaiting medics. Simultaneously, firefighters in the pond continued to search the car for additional occupants. One firefighter stated that they felt a car seat in the rear of the vehicle, which momentarily gave them pause that there might be a child inside. While in the medic, the 19-year-old driver told firefighters there were 4 other people in the car, 2 males, 2 females. Based on that information, divers from IFD Station 14, who'd now arrived on the scene as well, made entry into the water, conducted a thorough search, and found no other occupants. Shortly after the driver's mother arrived on the scene, the driver recanted his story and admitted he was the only person in the vehicle. He was released to the custody of his mother. Firefighters, for your ability to work together and effect this rescue, and it doesn't say here, but for risking your life for someone who made a knuckleheaded decision, we award you the IFD Unit Commendation. Andrew Richardson, Thomas Adams, Jeffrey Wheeler, Grant Blackwell, Rodney Giffen, Anthony Hamilton, Benjamin Slota, Nicholas Volkman, Mason McQuigg, Travis Bender, John Buckingham, Jeffrey Woodman, Isaac Warren, Ross Taylor, Keith Summers, and Hannah Brennan. On what would become a memorable Father's Day shift, these firefighters gave everything they had to give a man the best chance at survival. Afternoon of June 19, firefighters went to a cardiac arrest call on Town Run Bike Trail at East 96th. Upon arrival, first arriving crews were met by bystanders who informed them the patient was located roughly a mile south on the trail. With the patient deep in the woods and no access to him by road, 2 firefighters grabbed a monitor and EMS bag, commandeered bicycles from the bystanders, and rode south on the hilly, unforgiving dirt trail. The other 2 proceeded toward the patient on foot. Upon arrival at the patient, 2 firefighters found a bystander who happened to be a trauma surgeon of all things, doing chest compressions on the unconscious 56-year-old man. The 2 immediately took over chest compressions. The firefighters who were on foot arrived shortly after that. More manpower and ALS units were requested. Upon arrival, carrying extra oxygen bottles, incoming crews made the mile hike to the patient. Making contact with command, the group decided one of several options for quick extraction. One was to deploy a Zodiac on the White River, which was adjacent to the trail. Plans were made for a boat operation. Additional firefighters arrived and proceeded on foot with a wheeled Stokes basket. Still a mile inward and continuing their CPR efforts, the patient that had been showing a flatline rhythm and thank you. I learn something every year. Well, that's a hush. Got strong pulses back. Heartbeat. With no time to spare, the decision was made to scrap the secondary plan and carry the patient down the mile-long trail using manpower on the scene. As the crew carrying the patient worked their way toward the trailhead, they were hopeful to connect with the crew bringing in the Stokes basket. These crews had their hands full. They were carrying the patient on a backboard, several oxygen tanks, 2 heart monitors, 2 EMS bags, all while walking on 2 previously commandeered bicycles back to the citizens to which they belonged. It was conscientious of you. About half a mile in, the 2 sets of firefighters connected. The patient was loaded onto the wheeled Stokes basket. The long trip to the awaiting ambulance resumed. Dr. Greg Ferris, IFD medical director, had this to say about the crew as a follow-up to the incident. His words, "Due to the efforts of the bystanders, as well as your efforts and the medic on arrival, the patient remarkably had return of circulation. This alone was impressive, given the time that the patient was down, as well as the distance you all traveled to provide care. Even further, your efforts to safely carry the patient to the ambulance while maintaining ongoing medical care is incredible. Your efforts also provided his family time to mourn his injury and death while spending time with him. Neither of those two critical outcomes would have been possible without the care you provided. Your efforts were extraordinary and have not gone unnoticed. Thank you for taking incredible care of this gentleman. Again, the words of Dr. Greg Ferris. Firefighters, for your ability to work together as a team to mitigate this incident, we award you the IFD Unit Commendation. Please come forward, Christopher Matthews, Aaron Yoder, Rodney Dedo, David Shelton, Kevin Miller, Jay McClung, Michael Gatto, Aaron Ruth, Jonathan Coers, Caleb Singleton, Samuel Zylstra, Aaron Jeanette, Scott Elliott, Eric Sutton, Jared Hamilton, Derek Fullen, Todd Williams, Omar Lincoln, Dion Whittington, and Stanley Hedrick. Shortly after lunchtime, Wednesday, November 30th, IFD Engine 43, along with the collapse rescue team from stations 1 and 5, were dispatched to the areas of Mithofer and Rawls for a reported trench rescue. Within minutes of arrival, firefighters confirmed that a man was trapped underground. After asking his co-worker to exit the trench, 4 firefighters from Station 43 alternated turns in the trench and started frantically digging in the location that the co-worker provided. Other firefighters commandeered available material from the construction site and established a rudimentary shoring up for the trench. The firefighters in the trench were able to verbally communicate with the man and hear muffled sounds, but did not see him yet. Within 5 to 6 minutes of digging, they were able to create a hole large enough for fresh air to enter the space where they believed the victim to be. Within 20 minutes, the 4 firefighters from Station 43 had the man's head completely uncovered. The man, Adam Collar, 36 years old, told firefighters he was fine, remarkably, but the dirt was heavy and he'd lost feeling in his legs. Station 43 firefighters stated he was surprisingly calm despite being buried. Adam told firefighters he'd been in the trench about 30 minutes before it collapsed and was completely buried about 40 minutes before IFD got there. Stated that as the dirt fell in around him, he buffered his face with his arms, and that created a pocket of space underneath the dirt. He was able to breathe enough air to stay alert, but was reported as having difficulty breathing at the time IFD was dispatched. IFD collapse rescue team arrived and continued the digging and shoring efforts needed to pull him from the trench. Removal of the dirt in its muddy, compact, and heavy state provided the biggest hurdle, along with the continued need to build out and adjust the shoring efforts as the dirt was removed from the trench. 3 hours, 23 minutes after arrival, Adam Collar was freed and assisted up and out of the trench. Mr. Collar was transported to Eskenazi Hospital, where he was checked for injuries and released. Firefighters Ruth, Sutton, Hamilton, Fullen, Williams, Lincoln, Whittington, Hedrick, Coers, Zylstra, Jeanette, Elliott, McClung, and Miller, for your efforts, we award you the IFD Unit Commendation. Firefighters Gatto and Singleton, the IFD Professional Excellence Award, and firefighters Matthews, Shelton, Yoder, and Dedo, we award you the IFD Award of Courageous Distinction. Well done all. Starting to see some names 2 and 3 times. Kevin Miller, Jay McClung, Michael Gatto, Natalie Morgan, Aaron Ruth, Eric Sutton, Jared Hamilton, Derek Fullen, Todd Williams, Omar Lincoln, Alante Washington, and Kenny Human. Back to back. Run it back. Trench rescues. Take two. No stranger to mitigating a complicated trench rescue. The firefighters from IFD Engine 5, Engine 1, and TAC 1 were dispatched to 12105 block of East McGregor Road, Hancock County, around 3:15 Sunday afternoon, 27th of February. These firefighters make up the IFD Trench Rescue Task Force, and for them, this would be their second working trench in 7 months. Initial reports relayed while on the way were that a 50-year-old male construction worker had fallen into a recently dug trench after the ground he was standing on gave way. He was buried about 19 feet down. Upon arrival, IFD crews were told this was a confirmed recovery, and sadly, the opportunity for a rescue was passed. After a quick 360-degree survey and assessment of the scene, the trench rescue team began to formulate a plan to locate and remove the victim. While crews knew the general area that he might be located in, the amount of dirt and debris that had fallen on top was going to make that a very difficult task and a dangerous evolution. Working with command from Sugar Creek Township Fire Department, Lieutenant Jay McClung created an operational plan that included a robust stabilization and shoring operation just to make sure the work environment was safe to operate in. Once complete, and as modifying conditions warranted, the crews of two rotated in and out of the 40-foot-long trench. Digging through heavy rock-filled clay was exhausting. While all eyes were on conditions and safety measures in place, these firefighters knew this trench was particularly unstable, and they faced considerable danger, both up top and inside. 2 hours after the initial call, firefighters located the worker. It was now 5:30 p.m. Daylight was on borrowed time. They were not even close to being able to remove him at that point. Calling in additional resources such as lights and the IFD Fire Buffs rehab team, Trench Rescue Task Force was able to free the victim and secure him for extrication at 7:43 in the evening. Removal time 2 hours, 15 minutes after locating him, and a total working time on the scene of 4 hours, 30 minutes. Firefighters, for your willingness to risk your own safety, work together as a team and alongside a number of agencies to recover the victim, we award you the IFD Professional Excellence Award. Scenario 18 in your programs: Jeff Helms, Tom Kraft, Josh Boyadjian, Matthew Abel, and Troy Bradford. In what would be one of the more unusual incidents of the year, IFD Station 11 found themselves protecting another while fighting for their own safety. Shortly before 1 o'clock in the afternoon, June 4th, Lieutenant Troy Bradford was returning to Station 11 at 1715 East Washington Street, backing his fire department vehicle onto the approach when a woman ran past his vehicle and into the apparatus bay of the station. The woman was in obvious distress and yelled that a man was chasing her. As Bradford stepped out of his vehicle, he noticed a man running toward the station. As he approached, Bradford stepped in front of the man and told him to stop. The man, who was at least twice Troy's size, aggressively shoved Bradford up against the vehicle and continued toward the station. Within seconds, the angry man made physical contact with the woman. The engine crew in the kitchen cleaning up from lunch heard the commotion in the bay and went to investigate and found a man physically detaining a female inside the bay with a large knife clearly visible in his hand. The crew immediately called dispatch for police help. Once the man saw the firefighters, he turned his attention away from the woman and on them, becoming both verbally and physically aggressive toward the crew. In fear of their own safety, firefighters collectively used appropriate measures to disarm and restrain him. Some phrases are carefully selected to fill in the gaps in your own mind. Once restrained, they assessed, checked, and treated him for any injuries. Pause. IMPD arrived and took the man into custody, after which he was transported to Eskenazi to be checked out. Thanks to the aggressive actions of the engine crew, the woman was not hurt. Bradford, sustaining slight injury, was transported to Methodist, checked out, and released. Firefighters, for your quick actions on that day and your appropriate measures, we award you the IFD Award of Courageous Distinction. Matthew Ginn, Scott Ashmore, Grant Garthwaite, and Nick Bell, please come forward. Early morning hours, first day of October, a Saturday, Engine 26 was dispatched to 1104 Maynard Street for a gunshot. During response, dispatchers informed the crew that there were a number of victims. The scene was not safe. IMPD requested all incoming units stage away from the scene. Within minutes of arrival, IMPD secured the scene and requested firefighters to come forward. Engine 26 found 3 critically injured victims, each with a number of gunshot wounds from a large caliber rifle. Typically, a patient with a gunshot wound requires a group effort by the crew to stabilize, treat, and package the patient for transport. In this instance, however, each firefighter secured a victim and began providing medical care. Each of the victims had been shot at least 4 times, with one having sustained more than 5 gunshot wounds to the chest, head, and back. Despite the chaotic scene that was presented to the police, fire, and EMS that responded, the incident and care of the victims was managed with extreme calm and efficiency, with each firefighter continuing care for their patient all the way to the hospital. IEMS medics 26, 23, and 53 safely delivered them to Eskenazi and Methodist with stable vitals and the best possible chance for survival. Firefighters, for your ability to work together as a team, we award you the IFD Unit Commendation. Please come forward Daniel Connors, Daniel Loyal, Sarah Courson, Kyle Smith, Matthew Hopper, and Tommy Manigan. Sunday night, February 27th, 10:12 p.m., Engine 3 was dispatched to State and Lexington for a person shot. That is not anything new for one of IFD's busiest engines in a city battling needless gunfire night after night after night. While on the way, Lieutenant Dan Connors noticed a large number of IMPD officers headed to the same area. Many of the cars started creating a police perimeter along the way. He thought to himself, this is not good. While Engine 3 reached the intersection of State and Woodlawn Avenue, they noticed a large gathering of officers and decided to stop there, instead of going all the way to Lexington, which was the dispatched location. One might call it divine intervention. The crew was met by 2 frantic police officers assisting a 3rd officer who was clearly wounded. Officer Thomas Mangan had just been shot in the neck after an exchange of gunfire with a suspect. The gunfire also hit Mangan's radio and caught fire. IMPD officers extinguished his clothes. Engine 3 crew realized immediately the injury to the young officer was grave and time was of the essence. Lieutenant Connors told his crew there was no time to wait for a medic truck. They were taking the officer to the hospital in the back of the engine. While the crew put the officer in the engine, Connors grabbed the EMS equipment out of the side compartment and threw it into the back. While on the way, Courson and Smith stabilized the officer with high-flow oxygen, controlled his bleeding, made sure he maintained an open airway. Connors relayed to dispatch that Engine 3 was on the way to Eskenazi, emergent, and needed a medic to meet them along the way. IEMS Medic 5 radioed in. They were in the area and would meet the engine at Washington, Alabama. IFD Engine 23, also in the area, headed that way as well. When the 2 converged, Medic 5's crew jumped aboard. 23's engineer paramedic, Matt Hopper, jumped off his engine and onto 3 as well. Courson exited Engine 3 and commandeered Medic 5. Engine 23, now without an engineer, was being driven by the officer. On an engine that typically carries 4 people tops, 2 in the front, 2 in the back, Engine 3 now had 5 people crammed into the back, providing care to the critically injured officer. 4 minutes later, they would arrive at Eskenazi Hospital, where ER personnel were ready and waiting. In all, it was only 11 minutes from the time Engine 3 arrived on the scene to the time they arrived at Eskenazi. That included a stop to pick up the 3 medics at Washington and Alabama. It has been said that not all heroes wear capes. This coordinated effort was public safety at its finest. ER doctors credit the quick actions of these firefighters for saving the life of Officer Thomas Mangan. The officer is with us tonight and would agree. It is clear that split-second decisions made by Lieutenant Connor and the prompt actions by his crew provided him the best chance to receive surgical care within what we know as the golden hour. Engineer Hopper, for your selfless efforts to assist in this incident, we award you the IFD Commendation. And Engine 3 firefighters, for your extraordinary efforts in helping to save the life of an IMPD officer, Thomas Mangan, we award you the IFD Professional Excellence Award. I might take a moment, those of you who've attended a number of these, I hope would agree that these stories are so much more impactful when the survivors agree to share part of themselves with us. So Officer Mangan, thank you for being with us today. Your peers on IMPD who shared their story as well earlier with a difficult emergency situation, thank you as well. It means a great deal when you're willing to share that with us so that these firefighters know direct impact of the efforts that they make. So thank you. Adam Godin, please come forward. Mid-afternoon, December 19th, Squad 10 was dispatched to a possible residence fire, 1362 North Olney. While on the way, Engine 27 arrived on the scene and marked the incident, working with heavy smoke showing. Squad 10 arrived shortly after that, proceeded to the second floor through a set of steps on the outside of the building. There they met up with Engine 27, entering the structure for attack. 27 easily made it through the first door, but were stopped by a security door that was locked. Engine 27 called for forcible entry. Squad 10 engineer Adam Godin heard the call, moved forward with his Halligan bar. The engineer quickly forced the security door. The interior door behind the security door was also locked, but rather easily opened by the engineer. Upon opening that interior door, he was met with thick black smoke and high heat. Engineer Godin made the decision to proceed in front of the hand line and perform a search. A few seconds after entering the apartment, he discovered an unconscious civilian on the floor. He quickly grabbed the man under both arms and started to drag him out. Lieutenant Scott Wire of Engine 27 began to clear the way of debris and furniture so that Godin could exit without impedance. Once outside, he, Engineer Joni Kelly, established CPR. Paramedic Godin then performed a skilled intubation on the critically burned patient to secure the airway. The patient was transported to the hospital in critical condition and continues to recover. Engineer Godin then returned to the fire ground and assisted with more search and overhaul. While Adam's efforts were assisted by others on the fire ground, those others would tell you that his was a singular effort to save this man's life and give him the best chance at survival. So for your willingness to go above and beyond, we award you the IFD Professional Excellence Award. To the night's final scenario, please come forward Andrew Thomas, Ross Meyer, Nico Paramimbada, Juan Yaramillo, Eric Wildrick, John Seago, and John Demery. June 23rd, a report of fire came in at 3604 North Whitfield Street just before noon. It was reported as a possible entrapment. The fire was upgraded to working en route with a heavy plume of black smoke visible miles away. On arrival, the fire coming out of the gutter line was intense enough to melt the siding off the attic area of the house 30 feet to the west, as well as igniting the firewood pile stored on the side of the house. Engineer Juan Yaramillo, in the first due engine, nosed into the plug and hooked up as the crew stretched the attack line. Almost immediately, it was discovered the engine's front intake did not work. He radioed attack crews that they only had tank water, so don't get too deep. Juan then hand-stretched the backup supply line to the second due engine for primary water supply. If that were not already enough, the attack crews jumped in and reported that the primary attack line had burned through at the front door. Juan immediately shut it down and assisted in adding a length of hose to fix it. He recharged it and supplied 2 additional attack lines from the 3rd and 4th due engine. Ladder 44's crew of Ride-Out Officer Andrew Thomas, Engineer Eric Wildrick, Private John Seago, and Private John Demery were assigned to search. Squad 10's crew of Lieutenant Ross Meyer and Engineer Nico Paramimbada were assigned to assist with the search. Exterior doors needed to be forced. Once inside, the fire and the smoke conditions were heavy, with small Coleman-style propane tanks continuing to present issues, adding to the already dangerous conditions. Acting Officer Andrew Thomas provided a vent-enter search from the B-side window, searched the first bedroom that had a baby crib in it. He then moved into the second bedroom where, after doing a thorough search, he found a victim on the floor behind a dresser pushed against the footboard of the bed. Simultaneously, Squad 10 could not make entry through the front door because of congestion and broken hose issues, so the squad began conducting a 360-degree search in order to determine the best point of entry. Squad 10 located a heavy fire in the back corner and made entry through a bedroom window. Upon entry, they were met with heavy fire conditions, did a search of the bedroom and attached bathroom. After announcing his location and that he needed help with the victim removal, Squad 10's crew made it into the bedroom to assist with the removal of a male victim. Upon getting the man out of the house, Engineer Periambata assessed the victim, found his pulses, found him pulseless and not breathing, and immediately began to compress. They were getting pulses back before transporting. In this case, due to the amount of smoke inhalation, the victim succumbed to his injuries. These crew's quick actions, though, and fearless determination gave the victim the best possible chance he could have in this ultimately tragic situation. Firefighters Wildrick, Sego, and Demery, we award you the IFD Unit Commendation. Firefighter Yaramillo, we award you the IFD Professional Excellence Award. And firefighters Meyer, Thomas, and Periambata, we award you the IFD Award of Courageous Distinction. Again, as one of the civilians in the room, please accept a heartfelt, though hardly adequate, thank you for this night, for every night that you protect us. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott, very much. That was excellent. Thank you, Scott. Before we have the benediction by Father John McCaslin, a reminder to take your mug and your centerpieces home with you. And on behalf of the IFD Recognition Committee, we hope you have enjoyed the evening. Thank you for coming. We will now have the benediction by Father John McCaslin.
Let us pray. Gracious and loving God, as we conclude this evening, we do so with hearts and minds and souls filled with gratitude. Gratitude for those firefighters who served our city for so many years and have departed this world. We entrust them to your care. And for all those firefighters and first responders who are recognized this evening, and the many who while not recognized, have served our community. We thank you for the countless sacrifices, the countless encounters with our community, and the ways in which they seek to lift up people, seek to alleviate them from their suffering or their hardship, to be a symbol of hope, even in a time of great despair. So we thank you for the witness and the service of all of our first responders. As we go forward from here, we pray your blessing on all of us, that as we depart from here, we may return home safely in continuing the spirit of gratitude. And we pray your blessing upon all those who are working this shift, that as they continue to hold the watch and keep us safe, we pray your protection upon them as our firefighters, our EMS responders, for our police officers. And we pray that our community will honor them and respect them and continue to care for them. That all, at the end of every shift, will go home safely. And we ask all this through Christ our Lord. Amen. Have a good night, everyone.